Welcome to Globe Watch with me, Charles Ebune. Officially, plus 5 million Cameroonians live abroad. Unofficially, plus 8 million Cameroonians live abroad. And this week, the government organizes the first ever forum for the diaspora. It is the latest by any African country to seek to lay a template on which the government diaspora partnership can be executed for the development of the continent. Are we really in need of our diaspora in this context? Well, my guest today is a global investment and auditing advisor who for over 17 years was part of the African diaspora in North America. Josh ABESSOLO, MEKA, welcome to Globe Watch.
Thank you, Mr. Charlie Boone.
This is how the African Union considers the African diaspora, consisting of people of African origin living outside the continent, irrespective of their citizenship and nationality, and who are willing to contribute to the development of the continent and the building of the African Union. End of quote. Are you comfortable with that definition?
Yes, absolutely. More than 30 million Africans live abroad, outside of the African continents, and all of them left Africa and are also considered of the African descent. And constantly they are involved, either politically or economically, to the development of the motherland.
So does that mean that the over 55 million black people found in a country like Brazil should be considered part of the African diaspora? We all know the methods and ways in which they arrived there through the slave trade, specifically the transatlantic boating.
Yes, and I think the movement that has started in the United States of America with the African Americans who are coming back to their African roots and consider themselves part of the African diaspora. Some countries have gone ahead, like Ghana and Rwanda, to authorize them to be dual citizens of those countries. So any Americans who has left Africa, according to Ghana and Rwanda, can obtain their citizenships.
Well, and the African Union says that for them to participate in the development of the continent, it says, quote, "We invite and encourage the full participation of the African diaspora as an important part of our continent in the building of the African Union." Are they really important part of the development process?
Well, they are now playing a role. We have two types of diaspora. The one that was left Africa by force into slavery. Colonialism, the slave trades. Yes, they have not been very participative. But those who have left since independence throughout Africa in the 60s, those are the ones who have been actively involved.
The post-independence African diaspora.
Yes, the post-independence African diaspora has been tremendously involved.
In the name of students.
Students are going there to obtain this, knowledge and diplomas. Some have come back, some have left children and family who are now returning also back to Africa. And they are the ones who are now very much involved in the developments, the political spectrums of the country that they have left.
Globally, the African diaspora is spread across the world, and there are roughly 39 million of them, of the African diaspora in North America. You have about 113 million in Latin America, 13.6 million in the Caribbean, and about 5 million in Europe. Those are World Bank statistics. Can I know their financial worth?
Well, from what has been estimated, according to the World Bank and the World Remit, which is a money transfer organizations, 40 billions of US dollars is being transferred into Africa every year. The first country that tops it are Morocco with about 6 billions. Then come Algeria with 5.4 billion US dollars, and Nigeria 5.3 billion US dollars. So just by those transfers, not estimating the assets that they have there, meaning if they have built businesses there, if they have boat houses there, but only the 40 billion that they transfer represent 5% of the whole Africa GDP estimation. Mm-hmm.
One of the assets, like you just said, of the African diaspora is the educational asset of studying in some of the best universities according to global qualification and classification, Harvard, Oxford, Paris Sorbonne, Kennedy School of Government. I just wonder what has been their intellectual contribution to refurbishing and transforming the continent, because we still face challenges despite their presence.
Well, it's been quite very diverse. Some of the brightest African minds have been involved with international organizations like the World Bank, the IMF, the African Development Bank. So they have put their knowledge into those organizations with the primary focus to develop Africa.
Kofi Annan at the United Nations,
for example,
Chief MEKA of Nigeria at the Commonwealth, Brutus Ghali of Egypt at the La Francophonie.
Exactly, and the list is very long. We even have our young Cameroonian Vera Songre. We left the World Bank recently to become the Deputy Chief of the United Nations for Africa. And they're very bright.
The United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, the new Executive Secretary and UN Under Secretary General.
And she's Cameroonian and she's only 42 years old. So meaning that they're really at the helm of changing the mindset and changing the ways even those organizations should be helping Africa.
There is an organization called the Africa America Institute, which counts about 23,000 alumni, headed by Anini Kanjunju, who is from the Congo. Some of the past members of this association based in the US include former Malawi President Joyce Banda, include people like Prime Minister Mahas of Namibia and others. I just wonder why it has been practically very difficult of this African diaspora with best expertise who have returned home to develop their countries, to change the environment which they criticize from abroad. I can give you names like Ngozi Iweala Adesum, the current Nigerian finance minister, the former World Bank vice president for Africa, and others. But you see, these are the people who have led Nigeria into recession. Why is it difficult for them to transform the society? Like a majority of those who govern us today are products from mission schools where they said that morality is the best element for them to govern. But you see, when they come to government, they are the best examples of corrupt leaders and whatsoever. Where is the problem?
It's a very interesting question, but some of them have made great stride into developing. I can cite Sirleaf Johnson, who for long was part of the Liberian diaspora in the United States. She joined the World Bank. She came back to Liberia, ran for the presidency, won the elections, and has done all her best to develop that country, despite an environment that is quite very difficult. The challenges that to be tackled just like corruptions and nothing that can be changed. We all agree just with one decree or one law that is established by the government. It will take a long way to go, but some improvement are being done. They have improved in institutionalizing better governance, accountability, and transparency. Things are moving forward. Liberia is not where it used to be. Nigeria economy, as you cited, has gone into some recessions. It's primarily due to external shock, the drop of oil price worldwide. They're fighting insecurity and terrorism in the north of Nigeria. But at the same time, the Nigerians entrepreneurs are booming, and they have taken really a stand to promote Nigerian entrepreneurship overseas with UBA Bank, with Tony Elemulu, Dangote, businesses are booming.
You are just talking about the business contribution of the diaspora, and according to McKinsey Global Institute report, estimates that 122 million people will be added to Africa's labor force between 2010 and 2020, creating a bargaining labor force of more than 500 million people on the continent. I just wonder how much of the entrepreneurial spirit which comes from the African diaspora can help leverage the job market, in which at least between 10 to 12 million young Africans join the market today. And it is estimated that by 2045, the African young people population will be roughly 415 million individuals.
Yes, with 40 billions that the African US dollars that the African diaspora is sending into Africa every year. I can take
by remittances.
By remittances.
Okay.
And I can take the example of Cameroon. In 2016, Cameroonian overseas sent 1 billion francs CFA, which represent 33% of the public investment budgets annually in Cameroon. We're building the Nachtigal Dam, which is estimated at 900 billion francs CFA, which means that the Cameroonian diaspora has in sending it, it's 60% of the financing that they have sent. But what needs to be done really some country have taken a leap into it. I can cite Nigeria, Senegal, Mali. They have the government has opened offices and banks. The Bank of Constructions of Senegal has an offices in New York, for example. The Bank of Housing in Cote d'Ivoire has offices in New York. They have attracted fundings from the diaspora to build houses, to invest in constructions. So,
but you know, nobody disputes the probably economic success, but where the deadlock is probably the political side of the story, because throughout the world where I have moved, I don't see any French foreign expatriates criticizing his country abroad, be it on social media, be it on radio, be it on television. But you know, in 2015, in August, I was in the United States, and I was at Capitol Hilton, which is just 2 meters walk from the White House, and I met a group of Nigerians, and I asked them a question: what do you think about your country? And the first thing they told me is that, look, our president is a stupid man. When you have a diaspora that spend time destroying the image of their leaders abroad, what sense do you make out of that? No matter how brutal the Bush administration was, I never saw any American criticizing their president abroad. What is the problem?
Well, there are 2 types of diaspora. Those who contribute through their ideas, through their investments, to what their government is respectively doing. And the other type of diaspora is those that constantly...
I'm sure you are very much aware of the dynamics on social media today. Maybe the radio and television are no longer the best platforms to slander your country. I'm sure you read all of that, right? On social media.
Yes, definitely.
When you read the degree of animosity, of hatred, of violence, of the state-nation destruction through Facebook, Twitter, YouTube.
But at the same time, I think that any criticism that is being made is fully understood, But they might criticize, but they're not always right in doing it. At the same time that they painting their countries in dark. Some are making
kind of devil kingdom on earth.
Some are making stride. At the same time that Nigeria was painted badly, Nigeria became the first sub-Saharan economy in Africa, the first countries. So that even went over South Africa. So it depends sometimes on which political side peoples are. But it's not a general view that is accepted. Over the last...
The point I'm making is that when you meet a French national in Cameroon, for example, or an American in Cameroon or in Morocco or in Egypt, whether he's a Republican or a Democrat, whether he is a member of La République en Marche or he is a Le Républicain, they will never talk evil of their leaders abroad. That is the question I'm making. But we of the African diaspora, we hardly respect that. Is there a problem with our mental psyche?
No, I don't think so. People have their ideas and they have their viewpoints. And let's not forget, the political spectrums in Africa is sometimes along the same tribes, along the same dialects. So you never know. Sometimes people who do criticize do not agree because one tribe is in, one president coming from one tribe is into power. So we have to be very careful. But if they're making constructive criticisms, yes, it can be taken into account. But those who constantly try to paint the town in black, and I've seen a lot of them after 2 or 3 years, they finally decided to come back to their countries and fully participate and have different views.
Charles Robinson, Global Chief Economist at Renaissance Capital, estimates that Africa's GDP will increase from $2 trillion, where it is currently, to $29 trillion by 2050, which the means should